so I accidentally kidnapped the Grand Duke's nephew. Now I'm stuck with this little crybaby who's dead set on making me his auntie and playing matchmaker with his terrifying uncle. Here's the tea: I woke up inside the body of a straight-up villainess from a novel. The original owner, she was completely obsessed with the Grand Duke after seeing him once at a banquet. We're talking full-on stalker mode, following him daily and literally fantasizing about taking out his secret lover. That toxic behavior was a one-way ticket to a tragic ending, but since I haven't messed up yet, I decided to flip the script. I dropped a quick apology note to the Duke, packed my bags, and yeeted myself to the countryside for that quiet life. But my peaceful era was short-lived. My dad sent a frantic letter demanding I drag myself back home immediately. On the road back, I spotted a gang of thugs bullying this tiny kid. My justice complex kicked in, and I couldn't just watch. I drew my sword, went full hero mode, and snatched the boy from those creeps. No way I was leaving a helpless kid on the roadside, so I scooped him up and brought him home with me. When we arrived, Dad looked like he'd seen a ghost. I step out for a minute, and suddenly he's a grandpa. I tried to explain that even if I had secretly birthed a child, he wouldn't be this big in a year. Facts. So whose kid is this? Instead of answering, I asked why he summoned me back in such a panic. Turns out the capital is in total meltdown mode. The royal heir, who was supposed to be dead for 7 years, is actually alive. The Grand Duke is tearing the city apart looking for his nephew. That's when I realized why Dad called me back. He was terrified that I, his stalker daughter, would try to get on the Duke's good side by hunting for the nephew and just cause more drama. He wanted to keep me on a short leash, especially since everyone thinks I'm still obsessed with the Duke. Little did he know my plan was to lay low until they found the prince, and then quietly disappear. Dad was confident they'd find the kid fast, since black hair and blue eyes are super rare. But the second those words left his mouth, he froze. The kid standing right there had jet black hair, blue eyes, and looked about 7. We both broke into a cold sweat. Who knew my random rescue mission would land us the golden ticket? The maids whisked the boy away for a bath, while Dad and I panic strategized. We knew nothing except the kid had been surviving on the streets, with zero memory of his past. Dad suggested putting him back where I found him, but I shut that down immediately. Here's the nightmare scenario: if I just drop him off at the Grand Duke's doorstep, he'll definitely think I'm using a vulnerable child as a prop to get his attention again. In the original plot, the heroine is supposed to find the prince, and I really didn't want to mess up the canon timeline. Suddenly, the clean little guy peeked his head around the corner, walked over, and gave me a perfect 90-degree bow, thanking me sincerely for saving his life. With rosy cheeks, he asked, "Can I call you Charlie? You're the first person who's ever been nice to me." Those lines were meant for the heroine, not me. But looking into those big, hopeful puppy eyes, I could feel my peaceful retirement plans crumbling into dust. At dinner, the kid practically inhaled his food like he'd never eaten a real meal. I studied his face and spotted a tiny mole on his left cheek, confirmation complete. He is the royal heir. Rumor had it he died 7 years ago, and his half-brother stole the throne. If word gets out, this kid is breathing. He's got a target on his back. Handing him to the Grand Duke seemed like the only safe play. Suddenly, Dad bolted from the table with a stress-induced stomachache to find his meds. The little guy completely misunderstood, thinking his messy past was disgusting my father. His eyes instantly welled up with tears. Seeing him heartbroken, I jumped up to comfort him. "Who told you that you smell?" He'd been rejected so many times living on the streets. Hearing that broke me. I scooped the little nugget up into my arms, rubbed his back, and whispered, "You are so adorable. Just looking at you makes me happy." His eyes lit up like stars. I told him he'd soon have an uncle who would adore him. He's a bit scary, but he's got a good heart. My heart ached for what he'd been through. A tiny kid surviving alone out there. That's just too cruel. With her mind finally made up, she dropped the bomb on the kid. "Look, your mansion beats my place any day. Tomorrow, I'm shipping you back home." But the second he heard he was being deported back to that nightmare of an uncle, he instantly morphed. He went from calm to a total emotional wreck. Does this mean I never get to see you again?" She had to think fast to stop the meltdown. She lied through her teeth, insisting his uncle was way cooler and he'd be happier there. The kid just latched onto her leg, sobbing, "No, nobody is better than you." To stop the waterworks, Charlie finally caved. She swore she'd visit whenever she could, but there was a catch. He had to agree to one specific condition. Meanwhile, the Grand Duke was tearing the kingdom apart, looking for his missing nephew. The panic was real. They'd rounded up 3 kids with the signature black hair and blue eyes, but the magic relic stayed silent. False alarms, all of them. Forget the throne, forget the politics. He didn't give a damn about the power struggle. He just wanted his brother's son back in one piece. He made a vow: whoever brings the boy home safe gets a blank check. Name your price, it's yours. Little did he know his wish was about to be granted. Charlie was already en route, dragging the kid straight to the Grand Duke's front door. Here's the kicker. In the original canon, the main character was supposed to be the one saving the day here. trying to keep the timeline from completely imploding. Charlie set her terms, keep her identity a secret from the Duke, and she'd keep visiting. The kid looked crushed, but Charlie played dirty. If the Duke finds out I'm the one who dropped you off, he'll ban me from seeing you forever. Terrified by that thought, he agreed instantly. Charlie hauled him to the Grand Duke's gates. He lingered there, staring back at her with those puppy dog eyes, not wanting to let go. Deep down, he wanted to stay by her side forever. But he was too scared to say it out loud. What if she got annoyed and ghosted him for good? Charlie watched his small silhouette disappear into the estate and let out a massive sigh of relief. Mission accomplished. But here's the plot twist. This little detour completely shattered the original timeline. The male lead and the original heroine never met. Feeling guilty, Charlie decided she had to make it up to the OG heroine, who was dirt poor. So Charlie decided to become her mysterious financial backer. But when Charlie's dad caught wind of the cash flow, he literally burst into tears. He couldn't believe his daughter was doing charity work. I knew it. I knew you had a heart of gold. Don't listen to the haters, sweetie. They just don't get you like I do. The irony, in the original script, Charlie was a total psycho villainess, but her dad, completely blinded by love, immediately handed her a check for $50 million. That is way too much, Charlie insisted. $1 million is plenty. Her dad was totally shook by this sudden frugality. Whatever you desire, sweetie, just name it. This level of spoiling was honestly wild. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the reunion was bittersweet. The uncle tried to read a bedtime story, but the kid shut him down. Fine, can I at least sit here until you drift off? Seeing the heartbreak in his uncle's eyes, the boy finally caved. The Grand Duke gently patted the kid's head, feeling a pang of sorrow at how guarded and mature the little guy acted. And honestly, the Duke wasn't buying the whole "I found the mansion by myself" story. There were definitely holes in that plot. Later, dead asleep, the boy suddenly whispered one name, Charlie. Confused, the Duke mentioned it to Levon. Levon went ballistic, ready to issue an arrest warrant right there. It's not what you think, the boy shouted, tossing in his sleep. Truth is, he just really missed her. Levon was still skeptical, though. The prince claimed to be a street wanderer. Yet, he was suspiciously clean. Taking no chances, the Grand Duke ordered a shadow investigation to track down whoever helped the boy. The next morning, Charlie grabbed a bag to run some charity errands, but her trip got derailed. When she spotted some heavy-set creep harassing a girl, one look at the victim's face and boom, Charlie recognized the original female lead of the story. In the original timeline, she was the one supposed to return the prince to the Grand Duke's estate. But since Charlie hijacked the plot, guilt started kicking in. She decided to step up and help. Your art skills are legit, Charlie noted. But seeing the notorious villainess up close terrified the poor girl. Charlie didn't waste time. She grabbed the canvas and offered to buy it on the spot. But then came the twist. Irian flat out refused. Charlie was baffled. It turned out Irian thought this was just a pity purchase. With her pride on the line, naturally, she couldn't accept charity. Charlie flipped the script, radiating pure confidence. Listen, I'm the type of person who gets exactly what she wants, she declared. I don't do pity. I just vibe with your painting. Hearing that, Irian finally let her walls down. However, days dragged on, and the Grand Duke still hadn't gone public about finding the crown prince. Was he keeping the kid under wraps for safety? A bad feeling started to creep over her. She panicked. What if that kid wasn't the real deal? Suddenly, the butler burst into the room, looking frantic. He handed over a fancy envelope with shaking hands, an exclusive invitation to the Grand Duke's banquet. Charlie stood there totally stunned. Her dad was spiraling, convinced the Grand Duke was just trying to drag Charlie through the mud in front of everyone, but she shut that nightmare scenario down fast, denying it without missing a beat. Wait, hold up. The Grand Duke wasn't supposed to do this. In the original storyline, Charlie never even got an invite. But when her dad found out she was skipping the ball, the waterworks started instantly. Total breakdown. He goes full drama king. I don't want my baby girl growing up. You're too young to worry about family politics. It was so cringe that even the teacup couldn't handle the cheese. It literally shattered on the spot. Next thing you know, Pops is sprinting to the Duke's mansion, ready to drop a marriage proposal. Zero chill. Charlie had to physically restrain him, swearing she has zero feelings for the Duke. But of course, Dad thinks she's just playing hard to get. Ironically, Charlie remembers the plot, but the Duke's face, total blank. Yesterday, she was like, absolutely not. But cut to today, she's walking right into the banquet hall. One look at the male lead's face, and she's like, okay, the original villainess had taste. Then the Duke drops the bomb on everyone, announcing the star of the show, his long-lost nephew, Carlos. The kid's identity is locked in. Charlie finally exhales. Meanwhile, the boy is scanning the crowd. He catches Charlie peeking at him, but the second their eyes meet, she spins around. Nope, not today. Even though he's keeping his distance like she asked, the kid looks crushed. Suddenly, Charlie feels eyes burning into her back. It's a piercing stare. The Duke. He definitely noticed her trying to ghost him. Please don't come over. Please don't come over. Too late. Thanks for accepting the invite. Can we talk? The crowd is shook, but no one is panicking more than Charlie. But the moment she locks eyes with him up close, a vision of the future slams into her brain. It's a nightmare scene, her dad dying just to save her. This wasn't a memory, it was a spoiler from the future. The vision fades after that eye contact. Cut to a quiet terrace. The Duke doesn't waste time. You brought Carlos home, right? He mumbles your name in his sleep. Turns out Carlos has been spilling the tea. Charlie tries to play it cool. She wasn't hunting for the crown prince. She just saved a kid from some thugs. Total coincidence. Surprisingly, the Duke actually buys it. He thanks her for saving the heir and drops a massive offer. Name your price. Anything you want, I'll make it happen. He's deadly serious. Obviously saying, let me stare at your face every day would make her look like a total creep with an agenda. But she needs that FaceTime to trigger more future visions. Time for plan B. She remembers a gift she packed. She digs through her pockets, pulls out a trinket, and asks the Duke to pass it on to the kid. It's a luminous stone pendant that glows in the dark. See in the original tragic backstory. Carlos went from street rat to prince, making all the other noble kids jealous. They'd lock him in a pitch-black room. That glowing stone was the only thing keeping him sane in the dark. It's also how he eventually met the divine beast of light. The Duke looks stunned at the gift. Charlie starts sweating. Is he suspicious? Did she mess up? She quickly explains, it's got magic on it, but it's totally safe, I swear. The magic tower can verify it, but honestly, she was overthinking it. The Duke agrees instantly. No questions asked. He even promises to invite her over to visit Carlos. Score Charlie just secured her ticket to future sight. Meanwhile, some shady guy is whispering poison in the kid's ear. Watch out for that Charlie woman. She's been obsessed with the Grand Duke for 10 years, a total psycho stalker. He thinks this will scare the boy, but when Carlos hears Charlie likes his uncle, his face lights up. Logic check. If she marries uncle, she becomes my aunt and I see her every day. Best news ever. The guy is busy trashing Charlie's reputation when a voice cuts through the air like a knife. What are you doing? The guy looks up and sees the Duke's death glare. Instant panic mode. He starts sweating bullets. He bows a perfect 90 degrees and scrams before he gets executed. The Duke kneels down, voice turning soft for his nephew, and hands over the gift Charlie left. The little guy clutches the present, feeling a wave of warmth hit his heart. Watching this, the Duke tells his aide to take the kid to Charlie. You want to see her, right? The boy beams. Meanwhile, Charlie's trying to leave, but suddenly thud. A heavy weight latches onto her leg. She pivots only to get tackled by a hug. Charlie gives the kid props for finding his fam, but plot twist the second he locks eyes with her. He flips the switch to full-on crybaby mode. His tiny fist is clutching her skirt in a death grip, sobbing and begging to know if Charlie is going to stick around forever. Fast forward to the next day. The Grand Duke slides into her DMs, sends an invite. Haunted by the image of Charles crying his eyes out, Charlie accepts immediately. Plus, knowing the Duke has future sight powers is a major bonus. While she's zoning out, the little guy teleports behind her. She snaps back to reality. Realizing Charles is holding her hand, she panics, Your Highness. Crown Prince, did you just summon me? But the kid looks crushed. Didn't we agree you'd call me Charles? Whoops. If she actually did that, she could literally lose her head. But even the butler is like, do it, girl, encouraging her to grant Charles's request. Since the Grand Duke gave the green light, Charlie stops fighting it. Charles immediately starts spilling the tea on his life. At the Duke's mansion, every night his uncle reads him bedtime stories and spoils him with so many toys, he's basically swimming in them. Watching him flex his lifestyle, she finally gets why he was acting so weird before. Check out this wooden horse my uncle got me. I ride it to scout the garden. The kid is overdosing on cuteness, and Charlie's heart just melts into a puddle. Charles dives into her arms like a baby bird, saying he loves her hugs. Charlie gives him a gentle head pat. I like it too. Then he drops a nuke. So, you like my uncle too, right? Charlie freezes. System error. How obsessed was the original body owner that even the toddler knows the gossip? Okay. Time for damage control. Charlie shuts it down, declaring firmly she has zero romantic feelings for the Duke. Big mistake. The kid's heart shatters in 4K. Someone told him Charlie was secretly crushing on his uncle. Still, he asks with puppy eyes, do you hate him? Charlie smiles. Nah. He's a good dude. Charles lets out a huge sigh of relief. She hugs him close to comfort him. Charles probably thought she hated his whole bloodline. The little matchmaker drags Charlie to his uncle, dead set on shipping them together. But this time, when she locks eyes with the Grand Duke, Charlie's foresight glitches. So Charles decides to push his luck. Suddenly, a vision hits her like a truck. It's the kid drowning in a frozen lake. Wait, in the original script he was locked in a secret room. The timeline has gone rogue again. Meanwhile, Charles is hyping Charlie up to the max. My sister isn't just sweet. She went full hero mode and saved me from villains. She's the G-O-A-T. Is the Duke gonna think I brainwashed the kid? Seeing Charles stand Charlie so hard, the Duke offers her 2 wishes. One for saving the kid's life, and one for the gift. She's shook. Is this guy an angel granting wishes? Charlie struggles to answer. 2 wishes. Okay, I'll be visiting the mansion a lot. Thanks, Duke. The kid is hyped he gets to see Charlie on the regular. But next time Charlie's bringing backup, she plans to use a wish to set the Duke up with the real female lead. Next day, she rushes to find the protagonist Arian. How about marrying a rich, handsome guy who only has eyes for you 1 in a million type beat? Even if he exists, hard pass. Arian just wants to focus on her art career. Even though the grind is tough. Charlie didn't realize Arian was such an art nerd. Nothing she says works. Even the weekend party invite gets rejected because I have to paint. The vibe gets super awkward. They part ways and Charlie is stressing. She didn't want to break the original plot. But looks like she has to intervene. Banquet day arrives and Charlie is dressed to kill. She scans the room. But Charles is MIA. She searches everywhere. No sign of the kid. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the noise. Hey, miss. It's Alex, the original villainess who hated Charlie's guts. Now she's acting besties with the lead to tick Charlie off. Curious if you've chilled out a bit, Charlie. She knows Alex is just clapping back because the original Charlie bullied her. Heard you're hanging at the Duke's place. Congrats, you finally clawed your way in. Charlie is surprised this girl knows her location data. Charlie decides to fish for info on the rumors about her and the Duke. But when Charlie flashes a wicked grin, Alex looks absolutely terrified. Why are you looking at me like I grew a second head? Charlie mentioned he needed a favor, but this spot, total vibe killer for a chat. Let's head down to the lake. The suggestion terrified her so bad, she burst into tears and noped out of there fast. I'm dipping first. Rain check slide into my DMs later. Seriously, the date can wait. It's not that deep. Priority number 1 is finding Charles. Charlie wandered toward a secluded spot when she picked up on some serious commotion. She went full stealth mode to eavesdrop. To her shock, a squad of boys was publicly roasting Charles. They called him a total fraud, claiming royal blood couldn't produce such a loser. Charlie gasped when she realized the ringleader was Bear, the same psychopath destined to drown Charles in the future. You're just a fake dragged in by that witch. Word is she's getting executed soon anyway. To them, trash-talking the prince was just harmless fun. They were relentless. Pushed to the edge, Charles finally snapped. Keep my name out of your filthy mouths. Suddenly, Charles stepped out, radiating pure dominance. You dare speak my name so casually. Even your parents wouldn't have the guts. The boys froze instantly, their blood running cold. Next second, the waterworks started. These bullies had the audacity to cry victim. The redhead tried to clap back, claiming he was innocent. Charlie raised a hand, and the kid immediately flinched, shutting his eyes in terror. She told Charles to ignore the trash, which only triggered the redhead. In a rage, he shoved Charles straight into the lake. The kid hit the water. Without hesitating, Charlie dove in after him, inadvertently awakening the divine beast of light. Even knowing plot armor would keep him safe, she couldn't just stand there. She dove in. She couldn't bear the thought of that child suffering alone in the cold, dark water. Just then, the glowing beast materialized to shield Charles, sealing a mystical contract with him right then and there, recognizing him as master. But the clock was ticking, and their lungs were screaming for air. Just as things faded to black, a strong arm wrapped around her waist, hauling them toward the surface. It was the Grand Duke who pulled them out. But catching the panic on his face, Charlie was shook. Why was he so stressed about her? Later back at the mansion, the Duke watched over his nephew. He was stunned when the first thing out of Charles's mouth was a question about Charlie's safety. He understood the attachment. Kids never forget the person who showed them kindness during their darkest hours. Having lost his own royal brother, the Duke felt that pain deeply. How should I handle those brats so they never cross you again? The Grand Duke immediately ordered his squad to show zero mercy. Hearing Charlie was finally awake, he rushed to check on her. Meanwhile, Charlie was gagging down some nasty medicine, a special health blend sent by her dad. She swallowed the vile stuff only because she had to. That's when the Duke walked in looking concerned, asking if she was feeling any better. She played it cool. She thanked him for saving Charles, admitting she owed him big time for this. From the Duke, she learned the Empress herself had ordered those kids to harass Charles. He felt guilty for dragging Charles into his mess. It's fine, half the world hates me anyway, he suggested, announcing that Charlie was the VIP savior of the Duke's house to fix her reputation. But there was a catch. Everyone would assume she jumped in the lake just to clout chase with the Duke. So she politely shut that down. The Duke was baffled by her humble act. He believed she deserved a massive reward. Seeing his persistence, Charlie wondered, why is this guy being so wholesome to me? Had he forgotten her past stalker phase? Oh, the Duke definitely hadn't forgotten. How she used to sob and confess her undying love. Actually, when he returned to the territory, a year ago, he started finding her interesting. Later, Charlie found a blinding white light in her room. She thought she was tripping. Check your eyes, lady. I am the divine beast of light. Human and beast had an awkward staring contest. She asked why the legendary creature wasn't hanging out with its new master Charles. The glowing orb practically deflated at the question. The little master is terrified of me. I need a wingman. Charlie immediately waved him off. Help me and I'll make it worth your while. Look, if you go full monster mode, you're gonna traumatize the kid for life. Step 1. Find out Charles's spirit animal. But before Charlie could even strategize, the plot threw a curveball. Irene, the original female lead, slid into her DMs with a letter. Irene set up a meet at a local cafe. Charlie went expecting drama, but she got blindsided the second she sat down. Irene was all smiles, congratulating Charlie on officially dating the Grand Duke. So when's the wedding? She chirped, the second those words landed. Charlie swerved the topic faster than a race car driver. Why did you want to see me again? Turns out Irene wanted to drag her to an art exhibition. Major red flag. This exhibition was a key event in the original novel. If Charlie skipped it, the Empress would definitely cook up some nasty scheme. But then disaster struck. The letter Charlie wrote to reply to the little guy Charles had vanished into thin air. Since it didn't have the official ducal seal, the staff thought it was just prank mail and tossed it. After days of radio silence, the Grand Duke himself rolled up with Charles to demand answers. One look at the kid's face, and Charlie felt a pit in her stomach. But locking eyes with the Grand Duke triggered a terrifying vision. Boom, an explosion ripping through the exhibition hall. Her life was on the line. Shaking it off, Charlie tried to greet Charles warmly. But the kid was giving her the cold shoulder. I am so sorry I didn't write back. The servants lost your letter, I swear. It was a clumsy excuse, but hearing the truth, the little guy finally dropped the attitude. I really missed you, he mumbled. I missed you too, buddy. Charles looked heartbroken. Why didn't you answer? I thought you were sick of me. Charlie panicked, reassuring him she absolutely adored him. But then she started digging and found out Charles handwrote that letter and stamped it properly. Charles's face went dark. The letter Charlie received had no seal. Someone tampered with it. We've got a mole in the mansion. Moving to the patio, they realized Charles was fascinated by the birds. Charlie seized the moment. So, what kind of animals are you into, dragons? He beamed. Uncle reads me dragon fairy tales every night. Adorable. But internally, Charlie was sweating. Could her spirit beast morph into a dragon? A glorified lizard was probably her limit. He really likes you, the Duke noted, sounding a little salty. He never talks this much around me. Oh, someone is jealous. No way, I like Uncle too. Watching them bond, Charlie felt a warm, fuzzy feeling. Their relationship was finally healing. The Grand Duke asked her to babysit Charles for a while, but she had that doom-filled exhibition to attend, which was a scheduling nightmare. Wait. Brainstorm. If she brings the Grand Duke as her +1, she avoids the awkward run-in with the protagonist. She asked if he was down for the art show. Turns out he was already tracking the event. Night fell fast. Before heading out, Calix dropped some serious intel on Charlie about the investigation into her accidental fall into the lake, how the noble families were reacting, and the Empress's shady moves. Charlie was confused. Why spill all this tea now? Calix turned with a knowing smirk. I just figured you'd want to be in the loop. Charlie was shook. Does this guy read minds or what? Once he left, she went into detective mode, calling the butler and finding out Louis, the guy handling the mail, had conveniently called in sick. Pull his file, she ordered. Digging deep, she found dirt. Louis had been acting spacey at work and was drowning in debt. Circumstantial evidence, sure, but not a smoking gun. However, after pulling an all-nighter, connecting the dots with Louis's sudden exit, Charlie had a hunch. If her gut was right, she'd be cornering this rat soon. Because in 3 days, that fancy art exhibition, featuring works by a genius artist, was going to be weaponized to ruin someone's life. Exhibition night arrived. Charlie stepped onto the scene as promised. Scanning the room, she immediately spotted the problem. Fakes. Everywhere. Thanks to Charles's ability, she could spot a counterfeit a mile away. Now, Calix's warnings made sense. Listen up, because this is wild. The Empress was using this event to launder money. And the target, Charlie. But why is the queen bee of the nation broke? One word, Daddy. Specifically her father's massive gambling addiction. While Charlie connected the dots, she spotted Irene, giggling with Marquis Nathaniel. The Empress is playing 4D chess, but Charlie couldn't flip the board just yet. Because if you expose your position on the battlefield, you're dead meat. Irene clocked Charlie too. She immediately dragged Charlie into a tour, hyping up the art, especially Marquis Nathaniel's masterpieces. He painted these when he was only 16, she gushed. Watching Irene fangirl so hard, Charlie had no choice but to smile and nod. Just play the game, Charlie. Later on, the vibe was immaculate as they chatted deep into the night by Irene's art. Suddenly, a clumsy server took a massive stumble. 2 goblets of red wine went airborne, aiming straight for Charlie. But her reflexes, insane. She snatched those glasses midair like a pro, earning a roar of applause from the crowd. Too bad gravity is a hater, the wine spilled and the glass was doomed anyway. The kid's first reaction was pure panic, his eyes glued to the crimson stain, ruining Charlie's dress. He was absolutely terrified, stammering out apologies on loop. That desperate energy hit Charlie hard. It reminded her exactly of the day she met Andy. She clocked his hands rough, covered in nasty scars. Instead of raging, Charlie quietly signaled for the kid to follow her out. The onlookers were shaking their heads, thinking the poor guy was toast. But they had the script all wrong. Charlie just wanted to slip him some healing ointment. "Hey, do you know a kid with a mole on his left cheek?" The boy's eyes instantly welled up. "Is it Paul?" Charlie's gaze melted. Paul was just Andy's street name, and this terrified kid standing right there, that was Andy in the flesh. The same loyal soul who protected Charlie in the original storyline. After getting cleaned up, Charlie didn't waste a second, rushing back to the event. She barely reached a safe spot when, boom, a massive explosion rocked the entire exhibition hall. Thick smoke choked the room instantly. Total pandemonium. But Charlie ignored the chaos and sprinted straight for Maurice's artwork. Those pieces were the real deal, priceless originals. And just as predicted, a certain shady figure was already making a move to swipe them. Just as the thief reached out, a slender hand clamped down on his wrist. "Gotcha. You traitor." Suddenly, a deep voice cut through the noise. "Didn't expect to see you so soon, miss." It was Calix rolling up deep with his guards. The evidence was undeniable. These two were definitely in cahoots. Calix quickly spun an excuse to haul the criminal back to the Duke's estate. He chuckled. "You're sharp as a tack, aren't you? Looks like you figured it out too." Then he got serious. "Listen, if the Empress ever tries to corner or kidnap you, just stall for time. Do whatever it takes. I promise I will find you." He was trying to be smooth, but the vibe instantly turned incredibly awkward. Calix started sweating bullets, thinking, "Am I bad at this whole hero thing?" Shaking it off, the two exited the exhibition together. When a frantic voice shouted Charlie's name, it was Irene, looking like a total wreck after searching everywhere for her. Then Irene spotted Grand Duke Calix nearby and immediately rushed over to pay her respects. Charlie's inner shipper heart absolutely ignited. This was it, the meet-cute moment she'd been dying to see. Watching them finally meet, Charlie smiled satisfied. Mission accomplished. She turned to leave, ready to let them have their moment without taking credit. But, plot twist, after the pleasantries, Calix dropped a bomb. Irene. "That's a name I hear the miss mention constantly." Charlie froze in her tracks. She turned back, expecting a thank you, but instead got completely sidelined. Talk about being ghosted. Calix looked surprised then, a bit embarrassed by the situation. To save face, Charlie just flashed an awkward smile, mentally thanking the universe. Cut to later, Charlie arrived at the Duke's dungeon, locked, loaded, and ready to strike back. When the traitor Louis saw her walk in, he started rattling off his rehearsed sob story. Charlie listened for a second before cutting him ice cold. "Save the lies. I'm not here for a debate." She glanced at the wall of torture devices. "Wow, impressive collection. Looks pretty, comprehensive. Perfect for someone like you." Louis broke into a cold sweat instantly. "I don't do wasted time," she added. "Why did you turn traitor? You've got 5 seconds to decide." To Louis, Charlie's slender fingers looked like the literal Grim Reaper. Between the dark rumors and her death stare, Louis's mental defenses crumbled to dust in under 5 seconds flat. He cracked wide open and spilled everything. As he confessed, Charlie realized this guy wasn't just a casual bettor, he was a bone-deep gambling addict who sold everyone out just to secure a guaranteed win seat at the casino. This spot was legendary because the Empress's father, a massive gambling junkie, made a killing sitting there. Nobles would literally fight for that seat. But something didn't add up for Charlie. Logically speaking, knowing the Empress's personality, she'd never let her dad run wild like that, especially since in the past, she paid a heavy price for his addiction. He even stole her jewelry to pay debts. No matter how you looked at it, the Empress wouldn't tolerate that mess. Yet Louis claimed the dad wasn't just betting, he was winning constantly. Like a walking billboard for the casino. Could it be an imposter? Charlie racked her brain for the original plot details. But there was zero mention of the Empress owning casino shares. Looks like this situation needed some serious strategy. Spooking them now would only make things worse. With that thought, she locked eyes with Louis again. Even though this guy was a total snake, he'd been grinding at the Duke's mansion for years. She might have the rep of the infamous Charles, but treating a human life like trash, that's a line she'd never cross. "Real talk, you deserve to be ended, but I'm sparing your miserable life. Just never let me see your face again." Lois teared up, about to drop a thank you, but his relief morphed into pure terror in a split second. Charles, looking pale but deadly serious, leaned in. "But if you dare breathe my name to whoever put you up to this, I will personally introduce you to hell." Meanwhile, back at the Empress's palace, Charles, sharper than I thought, clocking my move that fast. So she coldly handled that pawn for me. Impressive. Interesting twist. Didn't see that coming. Fast forward to the next morning, Charles was still asleep, but stuck in a nightmare. In the dream, a maid was relentlessly bullying a little girl. That level of deep hate totally confused the innocent kid. One phrase looped like a curse. "It's all your fault." It consumed her whole world until she snapped awake. Charles felt totally drained, but her heart ached for the original girl. In the OG novel, the noble daughter was fragile and sick, and after surviving that incident, it basically twisted her mind. But right now, Charles had zero time to play detective on the past. Shaking off the mood, she asked her head maid Melissa for her medicine. Melissa froze, looking totally shook. Wait, miss, you mean the super expensive brew the Duke paid a fortune for? The one that makes you furious? The stuff you famously spit out the second it touches your tongue? Facing Melissa's rapid-fire interrogation, Charles blushed hard. Yeah, that one. Moments later, Melissa returned with the bitter brew and some emergency sweets. Charles downed the whole thing, no hesitation. Melissa literally clapped like a proud mom and shoved a candy into her hand. Sighing with relief, she said, "My lady has finally grown up taking her meds willingly." She gently grabbed Charles' hands. "Please keep this up, miss. Everything's gonna get better." Hearing those genuine words, Charles felt a warmth hit her like soft winter sunlight. But even with the lowest drama handled, she couldn't actually relax. She knew the Empress's next move would be way more savage. That woman was the type to stop at nothing to get what she wanted. But at least the odds of her buying off another traitor in the mansion dropped to near zero. After the Lois fiasco, the Duke's estate went full lockdown on hiring and security. Plus, the Empress can't move too recklessly without risking a massive scandal for the Emperor. Connecting the dots, Charles realized the play. The Empress's next target had to be the Rienta Merchant Guild. The Rienta Dukes were OGs who helped build the empire, and they basically held the keys to the economy, controlling the empire's lifeline. Over time, the Rientas stacked up serious power in the south, thanks to their trading empire. So the Empress is definitely going to try to tank their brand's reputation. She'll probably plant knockoffs in the guild to make the Rienta family look like scammers, or worse. She could swap out the official tribute goods for fakes. That's not just sabotage. That's a major threat to their credibility. Charles steeled herself. "I'm doing this for you and for me, to protect this home and everyone we love." Not long after, Charles teamed up with the Capitol Guard to investigate that shady art exhibition incident. After grilling people and searching the place, she realized the captain of the guard was actually another one of the Empress's spies. Charles was so strict and on point that the guy was sweating bullets, and he couldn't get a single scrap of useful intel out of her. Charles thought, seriously, trying to play me? A little naive, aren't we? Once the investigation wrapped, a guard handed Charles a small package, prepped by Melissa, the head maid. She cracked it open to find a fancy jar of candies. Charles flashed back to Melissa's motherly gaze. That warmth settled her fried nerves. "Thanks, guys. I'll bounce back for her and for me." She popped the candies one by one until her cheeks were stuffed, leaving the guard next to her totally bewildered. He was thinking, is that much sugar safe for her? Suddenly, Charles locked eyes with a familiar face. It was Alex, the guy who accepted her invite and then ghosted her. Alex had recently lost his parents and inherited a massive fortune, but he was stuck in a shark tank with his greedy uncle, who managed to snake his way into being his guardian. Meanwhile, cousin Faya is crashing at Charlize's crib, burning through her fortune like it's Monopoly money, and showing absolutely zero respect. Charlize finally snaps. She can't take the disrespect anymore. "You're acting so high and mighty. Think you're the main character." Seriously, Faya is about to go nuclear, but then she spots him standing there. Instant panic mode. I need to speak with Charlize." Faya drops a quick bow and scrambles out of there fast. Suddenly, the vibe shifts. Care for a sweet. Why even stress over her attitude? Turns out, Charlize's guardianship was supposed to end, but it got mysteriously extended. Sasha clocks it immediately. His uncle definitely greased some palms to make that happen. He steps up. "Hey, if you want, I can testify as a witness and demand a reevaluation." Charlize is completely shook by the offer. "Lady, you said yes to my invite before, but ghosted me. Someone stopped you, didn't they?" That question triggers a flashback to Calyx looking absolutely terrifying back then. But yeah, his interference is exactly why they never linked up. Sasha is fuming. "Those snakes, thank you. I feel way better now, even if you're just saying that to be nice. I really appreciate it." Back at home, the mood hits Charlize hard. She feels a bit low. She didn't expect her truth to be met with doubt. The idea that he thought she was just paying lip service stings. Duke Lienta walks in, assuming his daughter got bullied, and goes full protective dad mode. Once he realizes she's safe, he drops the hammer. That guy Charlize spared last night. Someone silenced him permanently right after he left. Meanwhile, the Grand Duke is on a manhunt for the former imperial consort. The official story claims the Crown Prince is resting in peace with the consort, but that's fake news. Calyx intercepted a letter, proving the young prince is still kicking. He spills the tea to Sasha. After all, only the former consort knows the real story. Calyx is betting she's still alive. The royal family looks shiny on the outside, but their closet is full of skeletons, like the cursed kids rumored to cause their parents' death at birth. To save Sasha from that unearned hate, the late Empress knew her time was up, so she pulled a power move, having the consort adopt Sasha. The late Emperor, with zero other options, had to sign off on it. The plan was running smooth. The Emperor was literally about to drop the truth bomb about Sasha's identity when a mystery illness took him out. Calix knows it's a setup by that person, but he needs solid receipts to drag the current royals down. Time skip. Calix brings Sasha for a playdate with Charlize. The second they lock eyes, Sasha launches into a tactical hug. Tears welling up, he says, I heard about the exhibition drama. I was terrified for you. You good now? You okay? Eating right? Sleeping enough? He unleashes a barrage of questions, and it totally melts Charlize's heart. She gives him a gentle head pat. I'm great, thanks to you worrying about me. Sasha's anxiety vanishes instantly. He grabs her hand and drags her to the Duke's backyard. It's blooming season, and the flowers are popping off in the sunlight like a living rainbow. Charlize is vibing with the scenery, asking about the flora. Calix plays tour guide, pointing out a sunflower. Then Sasha points to a purple bloom. What's that one? Calix pauses. The lisianthus. Suddenly, Calix whispers from behind. That's my favorite. My absolute favorite. Charlize freezes. She suddenly remembers this massive patch of lisianthus was planted by the original Charlize, who was obsessively crushing on the Grand Duke before the soul swap. Cold sweat starts dripping. She thinks, girl, get it together. Thanks for letting me tour your garden, sir. She tries to cover it up awkwardly. Don't mention it, the gardener picked these. Sasha watches this exchange, and it totally looks like they are flirting. He sees an opportunity to play matchmaker, so he grabs the maid and bolts to go say hi to Duke Lienta, leaving the lovebirds alone. Mission accomplished. Calix is standing there confused. Sasha, kid, where are you going, Lady Charlize? About that situation, the worry on Calix's face is loud and clear. You must have been spooked. Hearing this, Charlize is already over the shock of the Faya news. But right then, as she locks eyes with Calix, her future sight glitches back on. She sees nobles inspecting goods from Lienta's merchants with intense focus. Back to reality, the weight of the mission hit her the second she walked away from Calix and chaos. Wait, she missed a massive detail. How exactly did those future visions trigger? What was the pattern? Was she writing her own destiny? Or was Calix the puppet master? Cracking this code meant unlocking God mode on her ability. She could turn this into the ultimate weapon to take down the Empress and the entire royal bloodline. Right now, her foresight only kicked in. When she locked eyes with Calix, zero reaction with anyone else. It was like he was the only live wire. Charlie's brain was spiraling. Why was he the catalyst? Why did the future only download when their gazes met? And what about the visions she had before they even met? Was that just static noise? Baby steps. First order of business, confirm if Calix is truly the only on-switch. There was one major player Charlie hadn't scanned yet. Lebedi Calix's potential fiancé. Lore check, the Empire has 3 big-shot ducal houses. Charlie's dad runs Rienta. Then there's the Empress's Lennox clan, and the Vale's Charlie's direct rivals for the throne. Aside from House Rienta, the other 2 are totally out of daughters. And since Charlie's reputation is basically certified psycho, high society has pretty much anointed Lebedi as the it girl of the Empire. Elites call her the Golden Lily. Next day, Charlie rolled up to an orphanage that Lebedi bankrolls for clout. Charlie played the part of a diligent volunteer, eyes peeled for the Golden Girl's arrival. Charlie had brainstormed some wild ways to force a meet-cute, like shoving through the crowd, flexing her crazy lady brand just to stare deep into Lebedi's soul and see if she could trigger a vision. But getting dragged away by security isn't exactly a vibe, so she scrapped that plan. Snapped out of her headspace by a familiar face. It was Andy, the kid who watched Chaos at the art expo. Andy lit up seeing Chaos again and was about to spill some tea when some random guy stomped over screaming his head off. You orphan trash. You think you can slack off on the clock? And in front of a noble, the guy grabbed Andy by the collar, winding up a punch. Charlie didn't hesitate. Freeze. Did you forget my father outlawed child labor when he was prime minister? Who do you think you are, breaking the law like that? The guy froze, totally silenced. He mumbled a sorry and scrambled away fast. Andy looked up at Charlie like she was a literal superhero. After a quick debrief, Charlie found out why Andy was hustling despite having a roof over his head. He needed cash fast to find his sick brother. Boom, opportunity knocked. Charlie immediately hired Andy to track down Lebedi's schedule. It gave her a solid excuse to help the kid out. Turns out Andy already had the intel. A fancy carriage was rolling down the main road. Split second later, the driver slammed on the brakes. Emergency stop. It was Charlie, standing dead center in the street. No major crash, thank God, but she definitely got up close and personal with the horse's snout. The driver jumped down to apologize, and the passenger door swung open. Miss, I am so sorry. Are you hurt? Charlie looked up and got absolutely blinded by the aura. Is this what a goddess looks like? Charlie shook it off and stiffly claimed she hurt her hand. Lebedi grabbed Charlie's pale hand, scanning it with panic. No scar, thankfully, but just to be safe. Come back to my mansion with me. Seeing that angelic smile, Charlie decided to play along. Perfect chance to test the eye contact theory. Meanwhile, over at the Lennox estate, the Empress was grilling a servant about her father's condition. The maid reported that Lennox finally passed out, and even the head doctor is clueless about the diagnosis. She walked the Empress to the bedroom door and bowed out. Stepping inside, her face went ice cold. I always feel like an alien in this house, a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. Zero sense of belonging. In this world, nobles don't acknowledge illegitimate kids. If they do keep us, we're just pawns for political weddings. But Duke Lennox was built different. He didn't just claim her. He treated every bloodline equally. For him, family honor was absolute. He literally slaughtered anyone who knew the truth. Let's talk about the Empress's dirty little secret. That day, the Lennox mansion was basically a river of blood. Even her dad's main wife checked out permanently right there. But hey, the hustle wasn't for nothing. The Empress was publicly branded as the late Duchess's daughter. Did this guy seriously think his reputation was more important than the girl who killed her own mom? That is actually hilarious. Blue blood or not, the Reaper comes for us all. Thanks for the life lesson, truly. You're the reason I'm sitting on this high horse. So, as a little treat, I'm getting you the top-tier meds. Don't worry, I'm not letting you die peacefully yet. You need to stay healthy for what comes next. Drink up. This is straight from the royal doctor. I know you're useless, but surely you can manage to swallow. You should be able to handle that much after the mess you made. None of them give me peace. Dad, the Marquis, all the same. If I just had one competent lackey. Oh, right, Libeti exists. Her mental state is a bit glassy. But whatever, I'll help her toughen up. Time skipped ahead and morning light flooded the room. Charles looked absolutely wrecked. She hadn't slept a wink last night. She'd been staring daggers at Libeti all night. Nothing. Zero visions. Guess she really can only preview the future through Calyx. Looks like I have to shamelessly track him down when I need intel. Suddenly, the beast of light popped up in Charles's arms. It shifted into dragon form, but honestly, it looked more like a glorified gecko. Apparently, trying to go full dragon mode totally freaked Charles out. She was shaking, didn't see that coming. The holy beast had no choice. It came to her because, let's be real, right in front of Charles, it's just a clingy puppy dog. It begged to stick by her side, but Charles instantly felt a weird vibe shift. Breakfast was super awkward. The servants were sweating bullets, even the usually chill Duke Rienta was staring. He couldn't help but ask Charles where the heck the lizard came from. Charles kept it cool. I'm keeping it. It's cute. How does this girl say that with a straight face? When she's acting all cutesy. Even the light beast was confused. Wait, am I actually cute? Upon hearing this, the Duke just sighed and folded. He switched topics to the recent scandal of fake goods flooding the market. Charles perked up immediately. It was showtime. Just as Duke Rienta was about to say he was too swamped to hang out, Charles stepped up. She volunteered to run the merchant guild herself. She knew she could handle it. Her logic was rock solid. She had all the business stats unlocked. Back at the academy, she skipped grades like a prodigy and graduated second overall. The only one who beat her was Calyx. Okay, sure, she only studied that hard to impress Calyx back then, but facts are facts when she's focused. She's a powerhouse. Duke Rienta thought it over carefully and agreed, but he was stressing out. He kept telling Charles not to burn herself out. Meanwhile, Charles was already scanning her memories of the original plot. Crazy enough, a vague description was all she needed. She even surprised herself with that recall. A few days later, she finally tracked down the alchemy workshop, making the fakes. She tried to make a stealthy exit, but she stuck out like a sore thumb. Normally, this is a job you'd send a lackey for. But let's be real, does the original Charles have any loyal ride or dies right now? Nope. Plus, the light beast was getting carsick and begging to get out. Charles hissed at it to shut up, terrified someone would hear. But the beast dropped a bomb. Relax, only you can hear me. Great, another mystery for the pile. Why is it like that? They arrived at the spot. The shop owner saw Charles and started stuttering. Nervous wreck. Watching him sweat confirmed this was the place. She started her performance, making up a lie about a custom order. The guy thought Charles was clueless about his shady side hustle. He figured taking this job would score him points with the Empress, so he agreed. Big mistake. Charles smirked internally. Gotcha. Meanwhile, over at the Grand Duke's mansion, the kid was focusing hard on building blocks. He was so bad at it that Calyx felt secondhand embarrassment. Calyx quickly pivoted. So, hey Charles. Why did you say Lady Charles is number one in your heart? The kid smiled thinking of her, because she was the first person to ever be nice to me. Calyx and Levon were completely shook. Wait, does Charles have total amnesia? If his memories were intact, he would 100% recognize the former imperial consort. Guilt hit Calyx like a freight train. Charles was the dying emperor's final wish. And the second Calyx swore to protect him, the emperor passed on peacefully. But let's be real. Calyx totally failed that mission. Between his half-brother hijacking the throne and the drama with the empress consort, plus that tragic fire that allegedly killed Charles, Calyx was always one step behind the villain's twisted games. All he could do was stare at an empty crib and weep in silence. He buried that rage deep down, grinding his way through the chaos until he solidified his power as the Grand Duke. That's when the plot twisted. An anonymous letter arrived, finally pulling him out of the darkness. He didn't hesitate. He marched straight to the emperor, his half-brother, and demanded, the magical paternity test relic. Seeing the fire in Calix's eyes, the Emperor just smirked, handing over the tool and lying through his teeth. If the Crown Prince returns, the throne is his. Yeah, right. Calix knew it was a trap. It wasn't until he accidentally rescued Charles and brought him home that he finally got his shot at redemption. Charles' miraculous return was the glow-up Calix's soul needed, giving his life actual meaning. He just wanted this kid to experience the good stuff, tasting yummy food, and growing up in a safe, warm bubble. Whether it's dealing with picky eating or watching him adorably fake sleep to dodge a bath, it's all precious. Calix craved that domestic bliss, making up for every lost second. That's why he never grilled Charles about the past, hoping those trauma memories would stay buried at the bottom of the ocean forever. He felt like handling the heavy stuff was his job as the uncle. He assumed Charles just didn't want to talk. He never guessed he was missing the biggest clue. Suddenly, the vibe shifted. Calix froze up, and Charles felt the tension instantly. "Uncle, you good? What happened?" Charles asked. Calix snapped back to reality. "Nothing, kiddo. Just had a sudden thought." Switching gears fast, he asked Charles what toy was next on the agenda. Charles got all shy and whispered, "I want to write a letter." Boom! Charles went into full focus mode, learning new words as he scribbled. His serious little face, absolute heart melter for Calix and Levon. When he finished, he asked Calix for a spell check. Calix leaned in to take a look and found a letter describing their garden stroll packed with the cutest typos imaginable. Calix started teasing him until Charles got all flustered, which was adorable. He used the moment to gently correct the spelling while poking fun. Watching Charles pout, whine, and playfully complain, Calix realized the walls were crumbling. Charles was finally opening his heart to the family that loved him. "Thank you, Charles." Once upon a time, Charles viewed Calix as this divine angel sent down just to make everyone's dreams come true. But flip the script. To Calix, Charles was the savior who offered him redemption, and he swore to protect that bond at all costs. Meanwhile, over at the Rianta Merchant Guild, Charles was in her element, dropping new regulations left and right. She completely locked down the market to stop counterfeits from creeping back in. Even Vice President Sayale totally won over. She went from skeptic to full-blown stan of Charles's genius. Everything was moving smooth as silk. That custom order on track. Now the game plan was dead silence. The stage was set, just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. During the prep, Duke Rianta kept popping by total helicopter dad mode, stressing out that his baby girl was overworking herself or damaging her fragile self-esteem. He was walking on eggshells. To chill him out, Charles whipped out a sincere gift, a set of couple's brooches. She claimed she designed herself. The Duke examined them, absolutely floored by his daughter's hidden talent. Cue the waterworks, he burst into tears of joy. "I knew my daughter was the G.O.A.T. Charles tried to snag the brooch back, promising to give him the final polished version later. Reluctantly, he handed it over. Shortly after, the alchemy workshop finally lost their cool, blowing up her inbox, asking when mass production starts. Charles didn't even flinch, knowing the real big bad was still on the way. 3 days later, it was showtime. Charles headed to her appointment with the Empress. The Empress was putting on her best fake nice act. She asked how Charles was doing and apologized for the late invite. Charles matched her energy playing the game. Then the Empress dropped the act and cut straight to the chase. "I heard the tea. Rumors say you're helping Duke Rianta run the Merchant Guild. Don't get me wrong. I haven't been stalking you or anything. Just heard some whispers, and, I'm worried as a friend." Charles didn't miss a beat. "Ugh, I can't believe that gossip reached the capital. People really have way too much free time." The Empress paused. Her expression darkened as she watched Charles acting all bratty and dismissive, just as the rumors said. The Empress scanned Charles, the scornful glare, the socially awkward comments. Total social incompetence. She looked like the same stuck-up, arrogant, noble girl from before. Interesting. Thinking she had the upper hand, the Empress composed herself to keep the skit going. Charles seized the moment. She asked the Empress for a plug on good artisans, complaining that finding decent alchemy workshops was a total nightmare. The Empress was blindsided. Why switch suppliers now? Her spies had already delivered flawless samples to Charles. She couldn't figure out why Charles flipped the script so fast. But Charles, she was 10 steps ahead, and addressed the elephant in the room. "Oh, did you get samples from that workshop I found earlier?" "You don't like them," Charles shrugged. "Not really. I'm just doubting if they can actually handle a massive order." The Empress's ears perked up. "I know some people. Lady Rianta, you're working so hard. I'll definitely help you out." In her head, she was already plotting how to string up this new puppet. Charles sensed it was time to dip. Before bouncing, she dropped one last request, using the excuse that she had rushed over. Without her own knights, she asked to borrow one of the Empress's guards to walk her to her carriage. Her target, a guy standing outside who looked like a total NPC assistant. The Empress was shook, not sure if Charles did it on purpose or if it was just a fluke, since that guy was one of her operatives. But she let it happen. In reality, Charles's whole mission was to recruit this guy. Light brown hair, gray eyes, silent footsteps, and a vibe of totally suppressed emotions. This was Noah, a top-tier spy in the original storyline, an expert at working in the shadows, and one of the Empress's lackeys. Charles knew that to win someone over, you need a shared moment of impact. And right now, she was extending an olive branch to Noah. She stopped cold and dropped a bomb. I saw you at the equestrian competition. I know you're a rider. Noah just gave a cold shoulder. Well, miss, you must have me confused with someone else. Charles didn't back down. No need to play coy. I only remember people with real talent, and I want you to remember something. If you ever get sick of the life here, the Rianta family is open. Apologies, but I serve the Empress. So that's not happening. Doesn't matter how loyal you feel right now. Just remember, I, Charles Rianta, see your potential. You deserve a better life, Noah shot back. If I hold on to those words, I might just report them to the Empress. Whatever, just as long as you remember them. After a polite nod, Noah stood in silence watching her carriage fade into the distance. Little did he know what was coming. The Empress was planning to cruelly dump him in the scorching desert without a second thought. Thanks to Carlos, the next day was blazing bright, but the vibe shifted instantly when he opened that letter. He was absolutely crushed. Looking at the big picture, she made the tough call after this meetup. She had to cut ties with Carlos completely. As long as that kid was a threat to the crown, he was walking around with a giant target on his back. Just like she did with that other noble kid, the Empress was weaponizing children again. She plays dirty. Now she was exploiting Carlos's own abilities just to reel him in closer. And the Rienta Merchant Guild wasn't about to let Carlos get wrecked just because of some rookie mistake. It made Charles sick to her stomach, but she couldn't just sit on the sidelines watching everything go to hell. She was terrified of freezing up in the face of death again, just like in her past life. Not this time. She vowed to do whatever it took to shield her family. So she arranged one final meeting with Carlos. As the sun started to dip, the golden hour glow made everything feel warm. She watched Carlos focus intensely on his writing practice. He had no clue when or if he'd get to hang out with her again. She didn't want to waste a single second of this goodbye. She was shook by how fast he leveled up his studies. He aced everything. Carlos was beaming as he explained that his uncle actually made him study flashcards. Who knew Calix? A grown man could be that thoughtful. Suddenly, Carlos was all confident, begging for the next question. Without thinking, Charles blurted out strawberry. She froze. She was literally shaking. Strawberry. That triggered a memory of those adorable typos in his letter. She hadn't realized how careful he was being around her. She called time on the spelling quiz, and Carlos let out a sigh of relief. He barely survived that one, but sadly, good vibes never last long enough. Calix showed up to pick the kid up. Carlos clearly had a million more things to say, but the clock was ticking. Charles looked at him softly. Hold out your hand. I got a little something for you. It was a handmade clover ring. She was praying he'd stay safe and lucky just like the clover meant. Carlos instantly panicked. He came empty-handed. Charles just gently patted his little head. It's cool, she smiled. Hanging out with you was the best gift I could ask for. Just then, Calix interrupted, telling Carlos to wrap it up properly. It was getting way too dangerous to be out this late. Carlos got all shy and asked the big question. When do I get to see you again? He was walking on eggshells. Scared she was already sick of him. He waited for an answer. Silence. The dread started creeping in. Inside, she was a mess. She couldn't tell him the truth. She had practiced giving him the cold shoulder. But she just played the I'm busy card. She told him to be a good boy and listen to the Grand Duke for a while. Carlos stood there confused. Calix, on the other hand, definitely sensed the vibe shift. Then it clicked for the kid. He wanted to say something brave, but the tears just came crashing down like a tidal wave. He squeezed his eyes shut tight, terrified she'd find his crying annoying. But he couldn't stop shaking. Charles leaned in and comforted him softly, trying to calm his broken heart. Carlos, promise me you'll take care of yourself. Finally, the kid forced a wobbly smile. You too, big sis Charles. Stay safe. The next day, she felt hollow. Was this the right move? Who knows? She just wanted to keep Carlos out of the crossfire. The night before, soon as she hit her room, she dispatched her light beast to follow Carlos. The creature knew what was up and tried to protest, but one look at her face told him there was no arguing. It was go time. Charles pulled up the Empress's list and picked the bougiest, most famous workshop on it. She ordered 300 samples made from top-tier materials. Time flew by. Cut to the Empress's palace garden, where Noah was spilling the tea to the Empress about Charles's latest moves. The Empress grinned after hearing the details. Total amateur, she thought. Who wastes premium materials on samples? And that many. Then Noah dropped the real intel, telling her the artisans were snakes. He'd overheard that the actual order didn't match what the craftsmen were reporting at all. The Empress was actually impressed. Not bad for a lowly assistant. Noah looked thrilled on his knees. The Empress stood up looking satisfied. She played Noah like a fiddle, soothing him like a toddler throwing a tantrum. And just like a naive kid, he soaked up every drop of that fake praise. Seeing her hooks were in deep, the Empress tossed Noah the artisan mission, brainwashed and desperate to please. He said yes without a second thought. It's actually kind of tragic. He had zero clue what was really going on in her twisted mind. To Her Highness, Noah was just a mindless NPC, a pawn to be sacrificed the second he stopped being useful. Her master plan: wait for the samples, bury the artisans 6 feet under, and leave Charles with absolutely nowhere to run. But she made one fatal miscalculation. 3 days later, Charles crashed the palace gates, totally unannounced. She dropped a bombshell on the Empress about the counterfeit goods from that sketchy artisan. Before the Empress could even process the intel, Charles doubled down. Your Majesty, we need to make an example out of this guy. Maximum punishment. To scare off any copycats. You're cool with that, right? Charles didn't wait for permission. She moved like lightning. She caught the guy red-handed in record time. These fakes were S-tier quality. Even the guild vice president couldn't spot the difference. But everyone underestimated Charles' laser focus when it comes to quality control. The artisan was shaking in his boots, literally begging Charles for mercy over and over again. She hit him with the cold shoulder, completely ignoring his tears as she dragged him off to the imperial court. Meanwhile, Noah was delivering the bad news to the Empress. Her face went from royal to terrifyingly dark. Can you break into the Duke's mansion? Noah went dead silent. She brushed it off, assuming the Duke's fortress was just too tough a nut to crack, even for a spy. But in reality, that silence spoke volumes. In that moment, the Empress decided Noah was officially broken goods. Send a letter to Lady Sharon. I need her at the tea party. She was already moving on to her next puppet. At the party, Charles spilled the tea on exactly how she busted the artisan. The Empress tried to spin the narrative, hinting that she was worried people would drag the Rienta Merchant Guild's reputation, basically pressuring Charles to hand the guy over. Wow, I didn't know your Majesty cared so much about little old me, so we can fast-track this trial, right? The Empress froze. A trial? Absolutely. He conspired against Rienta, Charles said, eyes sharp. I can't just let that slide. I mean, if you were in my shoes, your Majesty, you'd do the exact same thing. The Empress was seething inside, but she had to force a smile and nod along to keep her mask on. Before letting her leave, she pivoted, asking why Charles had been ghosting the Grand Duke lately. Charles used the "I'm swamped with work" excuse. The Empress smirked. I should play matchmaker for you two. Too bad Grand Duke Calix is tied up discussing high-level matters with the Emperor in the capital right now. Hearing that, Charles realized she actually had some business to discuss with Calix, so she headed straight for the Blue Rose Garden, Calix's favorite spawn point when he's in the city. Just like the original plot, the wind whipped through her hair for that cinematic effect. Lady Charles didn't expect to see you here. Same here. Must be fate. Let's walk, he offered. As they strolled through the garden, Calix asked, so what brings you to the palace? Charles filled him in on her intense showdown with the Empress. Calix's expression immediately softened into worry. As they talked, Charles decided to drop the truth bomb. About the Empress's shady moves he didn't know about. She's trying to recruit me, but if I let this slide, she's going to escalate. Charles wasn't blind. She knew the Empress's playbook: isolate the target, make them feel worthless, then swoop in as the savior. So Charles had already cooked up a plan to feed the Empress a fake narrative. She looked Calix in the eye. I need a favor. Please treat me coldly. I need rumors flying around that I'm obsessed with you and that I'm basically a villainess, so everyone knows I'm bad news. Is that why you've been avoiding me, Charles? Froze, caught off guard. Without missing a beat, Calix shut it down. If I do that, you're the one who gets hurt. He paused for a second, looking thoughtful. Actually, I think following the Empress's suggestion is the power move here. Charles blinked, confused. Let's get engaged. Excuse me. Charles thought she was hallucinating. Wait, don't you hate me? Why would I hate you? How could you not hate me? Charles' brain was short-circuiting. I don't hate you at all. I'm being serious. Charles stood there, totally shook. How is this happening? Did I regress again? Seeing her panic, Calix stepped closer. Our engagement is a win-win, in more ways than one. So, I have zero reasons to say no. Just listen to this. Charles finally relaxed her shoulders. So when he said mutual benefit, he wasn't talking business. He meant friends, having each other's backs. Yeah, totally. That's my cue to leave, he said. The offer is sincere, and it stands. Sleep on it and hit me up later. Charlie stood there, frozen in the breeze, watching Calix's silhouette fade into the distance. Cut to 2 days later, Charlie touches down in the freezing forest. She'd been playing the long game, secretly planting a spy network in the Northern Empire to keep eyes on one specific target, the abandoned Noah. Against the pristine white snow trails of crimson blood screamed out the Empress's brutality. This guy did all her dirty work, sacrificed everything, and she still tossed him out like yesterday's trash. A knight who never got his happy ending. But Charlie knows the spoilers, and we are way off script from the original story now. Her knowledge of the plot is becoming useless, so she needs to recruit him to save herself, and to save Noah. If you still have the strength to cry, then look at me, she demanded. Noah lifted his gaze, eyes wide with sincerity. Lady, why you? What is this? Because I see your worth. Stop pitying yourself. Stand up and claim a better life. Join the Rienda family. He hesitated. But aren't you the one who ruined me? That's ancient history, fam. Just don't cross me again. She literally hauled him back to the estate. Fast forward to the Duke's mansion. Noah bounced back physically but mentally. My lady, I'm damaged goods. And what's your point? Are you saying you're useless? Why are you questioning my judgment? Or did you leave your courage back in the snow? Hearing that, the light returned to Noah's eyes. Thank you. He dropped to one knee, pledging loyalty. Thank you, my lady. One more thing. My final intel report on the Empress. The young Prince Chaos is down bad, critically ill. He's completely unconscious. Meanwhile, over at the Grand Duke's crib, little Chaos is asleep but crying non-stop in a fever dream. Calyx is helpless, just wiping away the poor kid's tears. Before the sickness hit, Calyx had dropped major coin on a sacred relic from the temple for Charles. He wanted to ensure this wasn't a curse. He summoned every top-tier doctor in the land, but nobody could figure it out. He knew Chaos was crying because he missed Charles, and honestly, Calyx felt the same. If Charles knew, she'd be heartbroken. Calyx didn't even realize when he started catching feelings this hard. It felt like if she just walked through the door, everything would be fixed for Chaos. And for him. Once the news hit Charles, she instantly recognized the symptoms. It wasn't a sickness, it was divine manifestation fever, a rare condition hitting royals with high holy power before they bond with a sacred beast. It's basically an awakening side effect. But since the Empire's divine magic had faded, this fever was supposed to be extinct. It hasn't been seen in ages, but the tea regarding Chaos's illness spilled fast. It was trending across the entire Empire. Charles decided to use the chaos to smoke out her enemies. She watched to see who was greedy. Everyone wanted a piece of the action, especially since Calyx put out a blank check reward for anyone who could help. Time skip Charlie arrives at the Imperial Temple, and naturally, she's the main character everyone is staring at. In the temple plaza, Charlie glared at the pebble in her hand. This is all your fault. How did you change so fast? Turns out that pebble is actually the beast of light. After soaking up the holy power from her artifact, it shifted into a rock and came begging Charles for help. The plan was to sneak the beast onto the goddess statue's hands, let it charge up on faith energy. But with all these eyes on her, mission abort. She turned to leave and ran straight into Calyx. He looked miserable, their eyes locked, and boom, her future vision triggered. Another premonition. The bright moon watches the earth. The cure for the divine fever is finally located. But the search has taken too long. Charles suddenly knows exactly who is holding the cure. The item that treats the fever belongs to the Empire's hoarder, Count Yaka. He has the treasures. But this event is happening way sooner than it did in the original novel timeline. The original plot is officially broken. Charles panicked. Wait, could it be that? Before she could finish the thought, Calyx cut in. Miss Charlie, it seems like you know everything. He looked suspicious. I've been wondering for a long time. Every time our eyes meet, you look surprised. Or like you understand something I don't. She seemed to know way too much. So Calyx locked onto her, scrutinizing every micro-expression on Charlize's face from start to finish. Charlize felt the heat immediately. She knew this was bad news and scrambled to find an exit strategy. May I walk you to your carriage? There is something we need to discuss. A heartbeat later. Your Grace, what is it? Calyx dropped the pleasantries. Tell me. Why are you ghosting Carlos? Is it because I asked you to spread those ruthless lies about yourself last time? Or creating more fake rumors? Are you staying away from the kid? Because of the Empress. I don't buy that for a second. You adore Carlos. Charlize pursed her lips silence, screaming louder than words. After a beat, she started throwing out flimsy excuses. The rumors about us. With me, an outsider hanging around, it makes things complicated for you and the Crown Prince to get close. I believe keeping my distance right now is the only play here. How can you even think that? Tell me, who put that toxic idea in your head? I will help you shut them down. Even as they spoke, a wall of polite respect stood between them. Every sentence was calculated, keeping the gap wide. Calyx walked on eggshells, handling his relationship with Charlize like fragile glass. Even though she had a million things to say, she bottled it up. Charlize knew this stemmed from her own trauma and cowardice, constantly haunted by memories of a past life where she was just a girl sold off by her parents for a quick buck. She would never forget the joy on their faces as they walked away. That was the moment. The nightmare truly began. Welcome to the Assassin Guild's training grounds. Out of 300 recruits thrown into the grinder, fewer than 5 would make it out alive. And Charlize, despite surviving, was the pariah. Everyone despised her for refusing to kill. Verbal abuse and physical beatings, just another Tuesday. She thought her miserable life was finally flickering out right there. Until someone stepped forward and claimed her. Charlize still remembered that boy's gentle smile. His choice sparked gossip everywhere. But he didn't care. Charlize was shook because the Assassin Guild had one golden rule. No member gets left behind during a mission. She thought by picking her, the boy was voluntarily taking on dead weight. If you're truly grateful, then survive. Live long enough to pay me back. That one sentence fueled her growth for 2 years. Every passing day, her trust in him deepened. Warmth of spending. Every waking moment together convinced her that taking a bullet for him would be totally worth it. Ironically, when that moment came, the look on his face shattered her soul. Impossible. You're useless now. I was just about to use you as bait. Seeing her shock, the boy coldly explained it to her as she drifted toward eternal sleep. She never knew her true nickname until then. Those 2 words mocked her entire existence. The moment the word abandoned was born, her heart died before her body did. She was terrified of inflicting unnecessary damage on precious innocent Carlos with her own incompetence. Suddenly, Charlize jolted. Wait, isn't this exactly what happened to me? Am I the one doing the abandoning now? What have I done? I think I've made a terrible mistake. Calix watched the realization hit her, his gaze tender. Let's go back to the mansion. By dusk, Carlos lay silent, Charlize standing guard by his side. He woke up struggling, calling out for her in disbelief. Sister Charlize, is it really you? Charlize didn't answer right away. Flashbacks of her past life hit her again. She, who had lost all faith in humanity, had been given so much in this timeline. She constantly reminded herself to really look at what was in front of her. Whether it was Carlos's tiny hand gripping hers, his expression, his voice, or the heat of his tears. She never had any of this in her previous life. So why was she still scared? Charlize gently stroked Carlos's head as he kept mumbling, "Please don't go, Sister Charlize. I missed you so much." Every word was dripping with longing, piercing through the shadows wrapped around Charlize's heart. Finally, she pulled him into a hug. They held on to each other tight. Charlize felt a wave of bitter guilt for abandoning him, while Carlos clutched her clothes like a lifeline, refusing to let go. Eventually, he drifted off in her arms, sleeping for several hours before waking again. Although the fever hadn't totally broken, Carlos looked way better just because Charlize was there. The moment he woke up, he apologized for being a mess, hoping she wouldn't hold it against him. Charlize apologized right back, admitting she stayed away out of fear and cowardice. The innocent kid's first reaction. "You didn't do that because you hate me, right?" Charlize got serious, explaining everything. Hearing it wasn't hate, Carlos lit up. He immediately showed Charlize the ring she had given him earlier. Seeing that perfectly preserved ring, the truth hit her hard. He had been guarding it like his own life. While he continued to spiral in self-blame, he suddenly dropped a bombshell with total innocence. "We're just like those best friends in storybooks." Charles froze. Friends, that word hit different. It carried a weight and reality she wasn't ready for. It wasn't every day you saw her rattled, but looking at him, his cheeks were burning a bright crimson. He beamed like he was the happiest kid alive. "I want to be Big Sis Charles's ride-or-die bestie forever." Fast forward a bit and Charles is back home glowing with main character energy. She felt reborn and ready to grind. Time to fix this fragile, sickly body. But reality check after running just over half a mile. Her legs were turning to jelly. "Okay, looks like we need to take baby steps with this training arc." Seeing her stop, Noah rushes over with a towel. Charles reaches out with a trembling hand, gasping that she is absolutely toast. Noah's face falls instantly. She feels like Charles isn't trusting her. Because to Noah, Charles looked flawless, not a single bead of sweat or sign of fatigue on her face. But on the inside, Charles was literally running on fumes. She tried to explain herself in a panic, which only made Noah look more crushed. If Charles was keeping it real, she wouldn't sound so desperate, right? Charles read the room. It was just the 2 of them. Immediately, her brain jumped to the worst-case scenario. Is someone bullying Noah? She got dead serious, telling Noah, "If anyone messes with you, spill the tea. I will absolutely destroy them." Workout over. She stumbled back to the mansion, shaking the whole way. Time skip. Charles links up with Irian and Alex. She walked in confident, but suddenly felt like the odd one out. Conversation skills, gone. But here's the twist. The whole chat was actually about her. They were hyping her up so hard their friendship levels just maxed out instantly. Later, Charles checked her stats with Alex. "What's the word on the street about me?" "Oh, your rep is climbing. And thanks to that brooch, everyone is obsessed with your aesthetic." Irian jumped in, totally buzzing, asking if that masterpiece was going to be in the auction. Fun fact, that brooch was loot from the scheme against the Empress. Charles had tweaked the design and put it up for sale. Just a little fundraising hustle to stack some paper. Just as she was about to speak, Alex dropped a bomb. Rhodocard's condition has taken a nosedive. Charles was shook. She didn't expect the plot to move this fast. We weren't supposed to be here yet. If Rhodocard goes down, Libidi is doomed. And now the news of the prince's critical condition is spreading nationwide. The ruthless Empress is already connecting the dots. She suspects Charles has the divine manifestation. That fever, combined with Charles's pure bloodline, the Empress, is feeling the heat on her throne. She decides to speedrun her takeover of Libidi, planning to weaponize her kindness like a hidden blade to eliminate her enemies. Meanwhile, Charles and her squad hit up an art exhibit. But let's be real, she's not there for the paintings. She's hunting for Count Yakar, the guy holding the holy grail item that can cure the divine fever. For the sake of her mission, she needs to move fast. Suddenly, Arian and Alex bring up Charles's brooch from the recent auction, mentioning it sold for an absolutely insane price. Hearing this, Charles instantly wanted the earth to swallow her whole. Talk about secondhand embarrassment. Why? Because it turned out her extra-ass father was the one who bid the highest price, and he was bragging about it to everyone. Charles had to force a smile. Wow, Dad, so powerful. All that careful planning. All that fundraising strategy, completely pointless compared to just asking her dad for cash. Nobody takes my daughter's art. Thanks, Dad. The afternoon faded away, and Count Yacker was a no-show. Another L for the day. Charles left empty-handed. Next morning, she switched tactics and went straight to the orphanage she had funded. The cover story, auditing the books. The real mission, finding Count Yacker, while pretending to care about the finances. 2 birds, 1 stone. Seeing the orphanages glow up with her own eyes, her heart actually felt full. Money well spent. Suddenly, a toddler crashes right into her legs. She looks down at this kid, brown hair, black eyes, crying river. Charles froze. No way. Is RNG really this good? After asking around, she found out the kid arrived just 1 month ago. She spotted a pendant around his neck, confirming her hunch, because inside that locket was a portrait of the Count's daughter. Boom. The missing heir was right here. 6 months of silence. Count Jackal had practically turned into a hoarder, praying that one of these artifacts would hold a clue to his missing grandson. But she couldn't just scoop the kid up. It was too risky. She knew the Empress had spies everywhere, waiting for one wrong move to hurt the boy. Just as she was about to leave him there, planning to set up a secret protection detail instead, the unexpected happened. The little guy latched onto Charlie's scarf with a death grip. He was nearly choking her out. The manager scrambled to pry him off, but the kid wasn't budging. No matter what. Turns out, the boy was obsessed with anything shiny, and he wasn't letting his prize go. Charlie realized something else. Heartbreaking, the kid wasn't a toddler, yet he couldn't speak a word. That trauma must have cut deep, silencing him completely. Charlie made a snap decision. She wasn't leaving him behind. She was taking him back to the mansion for proper treatment and safety. The orphanage director was stunned. She never expected such kindness from Charlie, thanking her profusely as they prepared to leave. But as they rolled out, someone was watching from the shadows. Young Alex. Poor kid. After inheriting a massive fortune from his late parents, he became a magnet for vultures. Greedy relatives were circling, desperate to snatch his assets. They weren't just suing him, they were putting on an Oscar-worthy performance. In court, sobbing fake tears and dragging Alex's name through the mud. Just when it looked like game over for the kid, Charlie burst onto the scene, radiating pure boss energy. She staked the entire Arrieta family name on Alex's innocence. Her words hit like a gavel, making the whole room freeze. Desperate and terrified, the relatives tried to flip the script, screaming that Charlie was lying under oath. Big mistake. Charlie didn't just come with words, she came with receipts. She slapped down Alex's letters, proving the handwriting matched perfectly, with the Arrieta reputation backing it up. The verdict was a slam dunk for Alex. Post-trial, the kid was beaming, clinging to Charlie's hand, and thanking her non-stop. He wasn't just grateful, he had officially become her biggest stan. After the emotional high, Alex had to finish some boring legal paperwork. Charlie finally let out a breath she'd been holding. That testimony was nerve-wracking. She'd almost tripped over her own words, but her victory lap was cut short. Blocking her exit was the last person she wanted to see, Marchioness Mies. I bring word from the Empress, she purred. The forger has been sentenced to death. Then her mask dropped. The tone shifted to a chilling threat. Hunting season is open. Watch your back, darling. With a mock bow, she vanished. Charlie felt a shiver. The Empress wasn't wasting any time. Was that an open declaration of war? Back at base, Charlie had Noah run a supply drop to the orphanage. The Count's grandson was healing up nicely, so Charlie tried to focus on the grind. But in this game, peace is temporary. A desperate letter arrived from Duchess Power. Her son Luca was critically ill, and she was begging for Charlie's help. Charlie knew this reeked of the Empress's interference. The villain's timeline was speeding up. Exhausted or not, Charlie didn't hesitate. She ordered the carriage and raced to the Bauer estate immediately. The Duchess had heard rumors that Charlie had a special eye for detecting curses. She was skeptical, sure, but a mother's love makes you take crazy risks to save your child. And guess what? The second Charlie stepped into Luca's study, the vibe was off. Even Charlie was spooked by the heavy, dark energy in the room. Please, the Duchess pleaded, find the cursed item but don't touch it. If we destroy it wrong, the curse could rebound. Leave it to me. Charlie ignored her completely. She grabbed the cursed object and threw it straight at the floor. The Duchess screamed, lunging to stop her. But Charlie's heel came down, crushing it to dust without a second thought. Ice cold. Double curse. Let's find out, she deadpanned. The Duchess was in full panic mode, screaming at a maid to check Luca's vitals. She spun around, eyes blazing with fury. You arrogant little, the Bauer family will make you pay for this reckless stunt. But once the room cleared, Charlie's demeanor flipped instantly. Chill, Duchess. The curse is toast. She leaned in, voice low. I had to put on a show for the spies in your walls. Now tell me, who sent that music box? Glaring back with pure venom, he spat. Listen here, Missy. You're gonna regret dragging the Bauer family's wrath down on your head. That ego of yours. It just signed your death warrant. The second the door clicked shut and they were alone, Charlie dropped the act instantly. Chill out, seriously. It was just a little curse, no big deal. I couldn't risk it. This place is crawling with spies, so I had to put on a show. Now, Duchess Bauer, level with me. Do you have any idea who sent that music box? It turns out the mole was right under our noses. Fritz and Arlen are actually from a side branch of Grand Duke Calix's family. But the puppet master, the Empress, she's plotting to weaponize Duchess Bauer against Calix. Meanwhile, back at the estate, the Duchess's servant makes a mad dash toward the young master's quarters. Seeing that Luca's condition hasn't spiraled downward, the servant exhales a sigh of relief before reporting back. Moments later, Luca's eyes flutter open. The first thing he whispers to the maid beside him is heartbreaking. Is mother still mad at me? Plot twist, this maid is the spy and she is toxic. She doesn't just say yes, she twists the knife, telling him the Duchess called him out. Young master, your cowardice is a stain on the RA family name. Please let me fix you. This brings us to Descartes, the former head honcho for the Emperor. Being a straight arrow in a crooked court cost him everything. Villains ruined him, and he lost his entire family. The mastermind pulling the strings behind that tragedy. You guessed it, the current Empress. With zero trace of his grandson at the crime scene, Descartes went rogue, searching the shadows desperately. Hiding his moves from the royal family, he was hitting dead ends until Charles showed up and completely flipped the script. After shattering the curse at the Bauer mansion, Charles gears up to leave. Miss, thank you. I owe you one big time, the Duchess says. I won't forget this. With the intel on Count Descartes secured, Charles doesn't waste a second, rushing straight to the exhibition hall. She knows the clock is ticking on this mission before she has to link up with Duchess Bauer again. She couldn't figure out why Calix, with his insane spy network, couldn't track her down. But now it clicks. Once she learned Fritz and the Count were double agents for the side branch, the puzzle was solved. This malicious spider had spun a web way too wide. If Charles wanted to fight back, she needed to bounce back to full health stat. Noah, I need you to play along with me. Don't worry, boss. I got this. Since Descartes is hiding from the royals, Charles knows she can't just walk up and say, I know your secret. Descartes is terrified the royals will find his weakness and use it as leverage. Plus, that would tip them off that Descartes is holding the holy relic needed to cure the divine fever. Upon spotting Count Descartes, Charles and Noah start their performance loudly, gushing about a mystery painting they supposedly just acquired. They hype it up, claiming the detail on this tiny artwork makes everything else in the room look basic. After dropping some heavy hints and throwing enough shade at the other art, they finally snag Descartes' attention. Charles catches Descartes' reaction and mentally high-fives herself. Nice work, minion. Oscar-worthy acting right there. Excuse me, miss, I'm Descartes. Could I see this painting? Charles plays it cool. You mentioned it's small. I don't have it on me. Can you describe it? I'm terrible at descriptions. Actually, I've heard the Count is a legend. In the antique game, why don't we schedule a private viewing at your place? 3 days later, inside Count Descartes' mansion, the tension is thick. He's been pacing until the servant finally announces the Ronin carriage has pulled up. He practically rips the door open and freezes when he sees the child in Charles's arms. Those eyes, that hair color, it hits him like a freight train. He starts shaking, overwhelmed. Is this the painting? The child Charles gently opens the boy's locket. Descartes completely breaks down. My boy, I finally found you. It's Grandpa. You don't have to be scared anymore. Watching the reunion, Charles feels a massive weight lift off her shoulders. After the tearful moment passes, Descartes escorts Charles to his private collection. Miss, I can't thank you enough. Anything you see here, it's yours. Take as many as you want. Well, since you insist, I won't hold back. Charles is internally screaming with joy. To keep things low-key, she grabs the pendant that cures divine fever, but also picks 2 random trinkets so it doesn't look suspicious. As they turn to leave, the kid reaches out his tiny hand, not wanting to let go. Seeing the little guy on the verge of tears, Charles is stunned. She didn't expect him to get attached to her so quickly. She squeezes his hand. You have to stay healthy, okay? May your future be bright enough to chase away all the darkness. And when the time is right, I'll come back and take you out to play. Meanwhile, over at the Grand Duke's estate, Levon is briefing Calix. Count Descartes had a meeting with Miss Charles. Levon leans in. We need to watch our backs with her. Calix processes this. Miss Charles, is she hunting for the divine fever cure too? No need to get paranoid, Calix says. Just keep an eye on her. I'm meeting Descartes in a couple of days anyway, but Levon is about to eat his words. Faster than he expects. A servant bursts in with an update. Miss Charles is here right now. Calix froze, totally caught off guard, while Levon looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Lady Charles is waiting in the parlor right now. Charles had finally secured the holy artifact needed to cure the crown prince, but this wasn't just a cure, it was a ticking time bomb for little Carlos. Once his holy powers awakened, the royal family would have the perfect excuse to target him directly. With the clock ticking, Charles rushed to meet Calix for the handoff. No time to waste. Calix immediately grasped the weight of what she was handing him. He knew exactly how dangerous this mission had been. Lady Charles, I can't thank you enough. Seriously, if you ever need anything, just name it. I'm in your debt big time. Whatever you want, consider it done. Charles blinked, almost blinded by his sheer aura. She hadn't used her future sight this time, but the current crisis was already screaming red alert. A promise from Calix. That was basically an unlimited black card for favors. She couldn't help but fantasize about the possibilities for a second. But reality crashed back in. She thought about Calix suffering through that divine fever dealing with the royal families. Dirty tricks, plus those shady warnings from the Marquis hovering over them. Charles didn't hesitate. Grand Duke, if things go sideways during the hunting season, please make protecting me your absolute top priority. Calix looked totally confused. Lady Charles, that's already my job. I know it sounds weird coming from me, but that is my wish. Calix just smiled soft and reassuring. All right, I got you. Still, he couldn't stop lecturing her, knowing exactly what kind of mess she was walking into. Plus, the Empress probably had eyes everywhere. Charles listened patiently, then replied with total chill. She'd already ran the simulations in her head. Sure enough, not long after Charles got the invite, the Empress's tea party. It started with warm small talk, which was really just a grill session, fishing for dirt on Duke Bauer and her meetings with Count Jackal. But she showed them what a masterclass in acting looks like. About the curse at the Duke's place. She spun a story about falling into the lake as the perfect cover-up. She had already synced up her story with Duchess Bauer beforehand, preparing for this exact scenario. As for the Count's grandson, piece of cake. Everyone knew Charles was funding that orphanage. She played the emotional card, claiming seeing that kid was just like looking at the Crown Prince back in the day. She was spitting facts so fast, even the cruel Empress got dizzy. It sounded a little suspect, but the logic held up. I mean, planting spies in the Orienta family. Literally impossible. The Empress had no choice but to buy Charles's performance. Since she couldn't squeeze out any actual intel, the Empress had to let it slide. But the second the tea party ended, the mask came off. She snapped back to her villain era instantly. If asking nicely doesn't work, I'm going straight for the throat. Fast forward to the hunting season opener. Every high-tier noble got an invite. And the best part, Charles was fully recovered and back on her feet. Seeing Charles healthy again was a vibe. Duchess Bauer hadn't forgotten what Charles did for her. She even sent a letter asking what reward she wanted. The hustle was paying off. Then the Emperor and Empress made their grand entrance, kicking off the real drama. They were acting all noble and benevolent, spewing fancy speeches. And Charles was physically repulsed. Absolute cringe. This hunting season was basically a PvP tournament for knights, where the winner snags a knight's badge. I've decided my nephew will present the award, the Emperor announced. As a royal blood, he needs the experience. Alarm bells went off in Charles's head immediately. Carlos looked terrified, but Calix smoothly stepped in, putting a hand on the boy's shoulder. Carlos is still young. He might not be ready for this. The Emperor smirked. Calix, didn't you start hunting at his age? Didn't you get your hands dirty when you were just 10? That subtle jab backfired, leaving the Emperor speechless. The Empress had to physically restrain her husband before he blew a fuse. This should be Carlos's call. Well, Carlos, innocent little Carlos, didn't want to cause trouble for his uncle Calix, so he whispered, I'll do it. The two royal demons lit up with fake joy instantly. Now that is a true royal heir. Come here, hurry. Levon walked Carlos up to the stage. After spewing some more fake concern, they brought out the box with the medal, a holy artifact personally donated by young master Pina. The Emperor made a show of touching it. Verified by the high priests themselves. If anyone but a true royal touches this, the holy power will attack them. But don't worry, Carlos. You're true blood. Just open the box and hand the medal to the winner. Easy. The second those words left his mouth, Charles cracked the code. She knew exactly what their dirty play was. Charlize reached out, her fingers brushing against the lid. The second she made contact, spiderweb cracks shattered across the surface of the box. Boom! A blinded pillar of light shot straight into the heavens, tearing through the sky with a deafening roar. Smoke instantly swallowed the entire plaza. As Charlize collapsed, Calix was there, snatching her from the air before she hit the ground. His veins bulged against his skin, adrenaline spiking. If the future of the crown wasn't resting squarely on his shoulders, he would have slaughtered those two demons right then and there. Levon was seething, barely containing his rage, but he knew the odds were stacked against them. All he could do was try to talk Calix down. Because right now, one tiny slip-up meant a death sentence for treason. The stinging pain in his chest was a constant, brutal reminder. Calix never imagined this was the price of Charlize's wish. This twisted reality wasn't what he pictured. But looking at her, it clicked. Charlize knew. She had this entire disaster mapped out from the start. That realization burned itself into his memory. Even Duke Rienta's massive influence couldn't silence the crowd. The nobles were already murmuring, casting doubt on little Carlos's bloodline. A voice cut through the noise, dripping with venom. "Look! The Holy Relic rejected the boy. He's a fraud." If he's the true crown prince, why did the artifact attack him? Lady Charlize, you better have a solid explanation. Before Charlize could even breathe a word, young Master Pina chimed in like he was reading from a script, mocking her. "Your Highness, why bother asking? The brat in Lady Charlize's arms is obviously a fake. Lock her up for mocking the royal family." Someone roared back, "Silence! How dare a lowly baron's son speak out of turn?" Pina flinched, shrinking back in fear, but his mouth kept moving. The arrogance rushed right back into his system a second later. This was a setup. The Empress wasn't just gunning for Carlos's title. She was playing the long game. She saw a golden opening to snatch the Duke's right of pardon and dismantle the Rienta family's entire power base. The Emperor, with his shady bloodline and throne greed, never had the authority to shake the Rienta legacy before. Why? Because Duke Rienta is a literal legend, a founding father who turned the tides of history. Back in the Great War, it was the Duke who saved the previous emperor's life when the country was just being born. That heroism earned him the ultimate immunity from the late ruler. But if the Empress pulled this off, the Rienta family's defenses would crumble. Before the shocked Duke could spiral, Charlize stepped into the spotlight. "I haven't spoken a single lie regarding the Crown Prince," she declared, her voice steady. "I just need time to prove it." Someone scoffed. "Time? What proof could you possibly conjure up now?" The priests already verified the relic, and when His Majesty held it, absolutely nothing happened. Charlize narrowed her eyes. "Is this how the Pina family teaches manners? Did I ask you, or His Majesty? Are you speaking for the throne now?" The Empress cut in smoothly, seizing the narrative. "Let's put this to the test. I want to believe in the Rienta family's loyalty as much as anyone. Your Majesty, shall we give them 1 week? After all, their devotion to the Empire is legendary among the people." She sounded like a saint, but her internal monologue was pure villainy. "Even with a week, you'll find nothing." As the Empress suggests, the Emperor nodded. "But for that week, no funny business. You're under house arrest." To prevent them from tampering with evidence, the order was given, but Calix stepped forward, blocking the path to Duke Rienta. "If we're locking her up, do it at the Grand Duke's estate, for the sake of the Duke's daughter. And if the prince turns out to be a fake, I'll deal with Lady Charlize personally." Charlize caught on immediately. Calix wasn't threatening her, he was shielding her. It was the only play. It was the only way to keep the Empress's assassins and spies at bay. Faced with the Grand Duke's pressure, the Emperor had to feign fairness and agree. As they escorted Charlize away, they ran straight into the smug faces of the Renat family and her brother. "Mind if I have a quick word?" Charlize asked. Calix scanned the guards. "Make it fast. We have eyes everywhere." She leaned in. "Young Master Ronald, thanks for the present. I absolutely loved it." Ronald blinked, totally thrown off. "What? What gift?" "Oh, you know, the one you had Pina deliver. Don't worry, I'll find the receipt and pay you back with interest." Later, at the Vangel estate, Ronald was losing his mind. Damn it, how did she figure it out? I was so careful giving it to Pina. Meanwhile, Libeti sat there in silence. She had hated this plan from day one. It turned out the web went deeper. Right after the hunting season, the Empress hadn't just met Charlize. She had cornered Libeti too. Exploiting Lebeti's fear for her fam, they cornered her into smuggling that box to young Master Pina. Right in the middle of hunting season, they dangled the one thing she couldn't resist, a promise to cure her dad, who'd been bedridden for ages. That was a lifeline Libeti couldn't just walk away from. She dragged the box home, conflicted, but after pacing the floor and second-guessing everything, she bumped into her brother. She spilled the tea to him, but her brother, bless his heart, he's not the brightest, saw dollar signs instead of danger. With the Count sick, their family status was in the gutter. He completely ignored Libeti's gut feeling and went rogue with the plan. Guy genuinely thought he was the hero helping the royals expose Charles as a fraud. Total delusion. Libeti flipped out. "Bro, are you serious? We don't even know if Lady Charles is lying, or if this is some 4D chess setup." But before she could finish, he shut her down. "Zip it. The Empress doesn't plot. Stop spouting nonsense and stay inside where you belong." "Father, I messed up," Libeti spiraled. "Why is our family crumbling like this? I can't just sit here anymore. I need to find the mastermind who hurt Dad and fix this timeline." Meanwhile, back at the Grand Duke's mansion, Charles was strategizing with Calix when, bam, another vision flashed before her eyes. Finding proof on the Crown Prince in 1 week. Pure fantasy. A man's twisted smirk, specifically that mole on his lip, was high-definition clear. "First, I get the pardon rights. Then the Merchant Guild is mine." Calix saw her zone out but kept quiet. The intel came back solid. The relic from the hunt was 100% real. The Empress likely pulled a fast one, weaponizing the relic with illusions and gaslighting the public to cancel Carlos's title as Crown Prince. Charles hadn't expected the Empress to play that dirty. If the relic actually vibe-checked Carlos and accepted him, this would be a cakewalk. But right now, the mission was identifying the owner of that creepy smile and figuring out whose future she just hijacked. Meanwhile, deep in the darkness, a tiny figure was getting swallowed by shadows. Taunts and lies suffocated him. Just disappear quietly. You don't belong here. He woke up gasping, pretty eyes already swimming in tears. He scrambled up, throwing hands at invisible enemies, only to realize it was just a nightmare. He scanned the room in panic, letting the familiar surroundings ground him. But the flashbacks of everyone grilling him at the hunt. Carlos started shaking. Am I actually a villain? Did I steal the real prince's life? Just as the poor kid was about to break, the door creaked open. Carlos, you okay? Something hurt. Charles stood there looking like literal salvation. Just seeing her made his heart stop racing. I'm sorry, big sis Charles. I might not be the real prince, but I'm selfish. I still want to stay by your side. I know it's wrong. Charles paused, processing. I'll just keep this memory safe. You silly goose. Charles knew exactly how much trauma this kid was packing. She gently wiped his face. Carlos, that's not selfishness. We're besties, remember. Even if you aren't the prince. You're family. You're an Arietta now. We aren't losing anything today. Trust the process. 1 week flew by. The nobles swarmed in for the drama, throwing shade and whispering loud enough to be heard. Charles stood there, unbothered, queen energy on full blast. When dogs don't understand, they just bark. Actually, wait, that's an insult to dogs. The Emperor played the benevolent ruler card, signaling Charles to start. Duke Arietta was sweating bullets, but Charles cut in. Before we roll, let's set some ground rules. If my receipts are solid, young Master Pina doesn't get to walk away. He pays for dragging the Arietta name through the mud. Pina, once cocky, now looked like he wanted to vomit. I just delivered the relic for the royals to handle. Only the royal family can touch it, right? Obviously. Didn't we establish that, so logically I should go boom if I touch it too? Charles dropped the mic and slapped her hand right onto the relic. Silence. Nothing happened. The nobles nearly had a heart attack. Only 3 people kept their cool. Pina stared at Charles's fierce glare, his brain completely short-circuiting. Reading the room instantly, he starts hyping up the Rienta bloodline so hard it's actually cringe. The second-hand embarrassment is real, folks. Young Master Quines looks totally lost. He has zero clue what this artifact actually does. He gives the holy relic another casual tap, and whoosh! A blinding holy aura explodes outward, flooding the entire hall. The nobles are shook, looking around like, wait, what just happened? They're scrambling to figure it out. Here's the tea. It is a sacred relic, but it's not a DNA test. It's actually a divine power scouter. It doesn't care about royal bloodlines at all. And Charles, he's packing the divine beast of light. His acting is so on point that even the divine beast finally catches on to the scheme. The creature is fuming, but looking at its form, Charles is legit speechless. All that grinding paid off. Those rumors claiming the artifact proves royal blood. They're crashing and burning. The win is going straight to Charles. He keeps the momentum going, explaining that the relic went crazy near him because of that incident where he fell into the lake. Remember that. Apparently his pendant soaked up all the holy energy from the water like a sponge. That's the culprit. Tina is not buying it. Her face screams. You expect me to believe that Charles just hits her with the innocent puppy dog eyes. Why not the Emperor cuts in, shutting her down? So can you prove that pendant holds divine power? Sadly, I can't do that. The relic's power kind of fizzled out after that massive explosion. But luckily, I found this stone in the lake, and it's triggering a reaction too. Young Master Pina, if you're innocent, give it a try. You think I'm scared, but then plot twist. The divine beast's vibe shifts instantly. Its face says, gotcha, it was you all along, you little punk. Watch this. While everyone's holding their breath, Tina calmly slaps her hand onto the sacred artifact. Boom, a deafening explosion rocks the room, burying the entire hall in thick smoke. Miracle time, everyone is totally fine. Well, everyone except that arrogant pawn, who got played like a fiddle. Meanwhile, in the shadows, the Empress is clenching her fists so hard her knuckles are white. Not long after the squads from the Duke and Grand Duke's mansions roll out of the palace in a massive convoy. Duke Rienta is basically worshipping Keelix after that show. But here's the kicker. Charles didn't see coming. The stunt drained the battery of the divine beast completely dry. I gotta get back to Charles as soon as possible and drop the good news. But suddenly the room starts spinning. Intense vertigo hits her like a truck. She stumbles and someone screams, Charlie. Charlie tries to turn toward the voice, but it's lights out. She hits the floor. Blackout. Thank God. Right in the nick of time, a strong, powerful hand grabbed hold of her. Miss Charlie, hurry, get the carriage. Her dream was replaying the tragedy, the dark past that killed the original Charlie. You never should have been kind to me. Why give me hope? Those 4 crushing words echoed in her mind. She tried to bury the longing deep down, forcing it away. But the original Charlie couldn't stop shaking. A brief moment of comfort? Nope. After she dropped the "I hate you" bomb, he just froze. Fine, keep hating me then. Charlie's eyes fluttered open, reality slowly coming back into focus. Beside her, Charles was freaking out. "Charlie sis, you're finally awake." Amidst his rambling, Charlie pieced it together. She'd been out cold. 2 whole days. And the kicker, Calix hadn't left her side the entire time. Her face went ghost white. Charles saw her color drop and instantly panicked again. "Sis. Hang on, Charlie, I'm getting Uncle right now." He was a mess, totally distressed, trying to fight through the splitting headache. Wait, why didn't the original story mention these nightmare flashbacks? Did I just forget that part of the plot? Suddenly, Calix walked in. "Lady Charlie, you're awake." His soft voice snapped her back to reality. She opened her mouth to speak, but bam! A vision of the future slammed into her mind. Flames everywhere, massive explosions and raging fire, consuming the entire Rianta estate. The Duke stood amidst the ashes of his life, looking at the ruin. "Charlie, my daughter." His voice cracked with despair. He was drowning in regret. If only he'd let her stay at the Grand Duke's place for just 2 more weeks. Maybe they'd all still be alive. Charlie was paralyzed with fear. "Am I going to die? What is this?" She shook her head, forcing the vision away. "It's nothing. Just please, prepare a carriage. I need to get back to the Duke's mansion. Now." Calix looked like he wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come out. Fast forward to the Rianta estate. The second she walked in, there was her dad, the picture-perfect image of a doting father totally losing his cool. Out of worry. The man was sobbing so hard he could have given Charlie a free shampoo with all those tears. In that moment, she just couldn't wrap her head around it. Why was the original Charlie so messed up when her dad clearly loved her this much? Sadly, the old Charlie didn't figure that out until she was on her deathbed. It sounds tragic, but honestly, it's infuriating that she was so blind. For our Charlie, the Duke was her rock, her only family. To keep this warmth for a lifetime, she just had to survive. Whatever hurdles came her way. Now who would bomb the mansion? Ronald? No way. He doesn't have the guts or the power. The Emperor and Empress aren't at each other's throats yet, so they wouldn't risk a crime this messy. That leaves only one suspect. The guy from her vision, the one with the mole by his mouth. "Master, I've secured the noble registry." This wasn't public info, it was straight from the palace archives. Faces, ranks, names, everything detailed. She flipped through the pages until her hand suddenly froze.